Hey everyone, Spaniard here, doing another review, second week in a row, and I'm super stoked because this is a remake of an already amazing classic. Stephen King, who is one of, if not the best author ever, and yes, I am partial to that because he is my favorite author. Um, Created Pet Cemetery, right? Amazing book, one of my favorites. I've read it probably 10 times. I absolutely love it. And the original was back in 1989, the first movie that came out. I think there was a sequel that happened. Obviously has nothing to do with Stephen King himself, but we'll just leave that one out of here. But the original Pet Sematary movie that came out was phenomenal. It had such a great adaptation to the novel that a lot of people were calling it just like an amazing visual aspect of what Stephen King himself would have loved to have shown, especially for the cemetery, which, funny enough, in the title and the movie is spelled incorrectly, which makes it that much more like amazing. And if you know King's writing, you'll fall in love with this. So here we are, 2019, and the remake of this comes out. A lot of people are saying, well, this didn't really need a remake, and a lot of Stephen King stuff has been coming up out of nowhere, which, as a fan, I absolutely love. I will admit I was a bit cautious because I love the book and I love the first movie, but I feel that they actually did a very good job as an adaptation. And not only that, but they weren't afraid to change a few things, and sometimes that can go like way over here, right? Just be completely shit and just screw everything up. People be like, why? You have an amazing script right in front of you, pretty much handwritten for free. Just do it. But it actually makes a nice pace and a nice change. So here we go. So the story, if you don't know about Pet Sematary, this may contain a bit of spoilers, but it's old as days. You guys should have already have known at least a little bit about it. And the trailers give away pretty much the basic concept of the story. So this doctor moves in to this new town, right, over in Maine. And with that, his family. And there are some unfortunate events that portray. And he decides that it is best to try to, instead of let things be, try to bring some things back, which brings us to Pet Sematary, right? Trying to go not too much into the spoilers, but the doctor here, who is Lewis, is played by Jason Clarke, who the last thing that I remember seeing him in was Planet of the Apes, which I loved his performance there. And wow, him and John Lithgow in this film in particularly just shine. They have a great chemistry, and the eeriness that Stephen King brings to his particular characters, because he is very particular, mesh very well, and I love that. The acting is straightforward, really good. Dialogue isn't over the top, and you really feel the fear that is being brought up. And that's probably my only gripe with the film, is that it does match on par with the original film in the 89's version. Time frame, an hour and 40 minutes, which isn't bad for a horror film. However, in that regard, it's like one of those things when you look over and you just kind of think, okay, well, it's based off of this huge novel, which they always have a lot of details. And although the first movie was good, it still left out a few things. Maybe things that you would think, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. But they do make a huge present, especially in today's times, I would say. Maybe not so much back then, but in today's times, detail would really help out. I feel like a lot of times movies, they leave you wondering, well, why this or why that, right? So you don't get that much of a sense here, but I feel like if they would have made it an extra 20 minutes long, they could have adapted a bit more into the whole eeriness that the book does bring up in detail. The girl, however, I have to say, her name is Jete, I think. Jete Lawrence. Phenomenal. She was great throughout the entire film. Absolutely loved her. She definitely, you could tell she was directed and inspired by, King's past characters, as you were. And it just brings just a great presence. Like, I felt I was watching a Stephen King novel. And I mean, it's hard to say because I mean the unfortunate events of the Dark Tower, it just made us kind of feel like, well, why can't this be done right? So it is an amazing adaptation, and the score, oh my gosh, the score is so creepy. I don't say this is a scary movie. It definitely has suspense throughout. It makes you hold your breath. You're kind of like looking around going, holy hell, what's going to happen next? And it just has a great sense of like, damn, like whole, like that, because Stephen King, he does not give a shit. Okay. We'll just say that straight. He does not care what he writes or how he writes it. If he wants that character to do something crazy, then it is going to happen, right? It is just going to go ahead and happen. So, with that being said, it's just one of those things where you kind of have to review and look into and say, okay, like I just saw this. It happened. Like there was no delay. That's the writing of Stephen King. So here we go. I normally play this for you all. This is a piece of the score. Very creepy, very eerie. Hopefully, if you guys are watching this at night, you lock your doors. All right, I think we're good to go, and we have the great aspect of that as well. So, with that being said, overall, I really enjoyed it. I know I'm a fan, so I'm a bit biased, but I still feel there could have been some things done better. Honestly, I still like the original a lot more, especially with the cat. Known as Church, which is a huge presence to Pet Sematary. He's pretty much the antagonist, if you look at it that way, throughout the entire book and the novel. And I just felt they probably could have put a bit more presence on that. But overall, very good movie, very well done. I'm giving it 3 out of 4 stars. So, it was very good. If you're a fan of horror, go watch it. Not scary, but definitely very suspenseful, and you will enjoy it. I think it's great to watch these types of films in theater. You get the whole experience, especially from a Stephen King vibe. So, for all of you who are watching and don't want any, in particular, spoilers for my favorite scene that I'll be bringing up, you can end it here. For those of you listening to the podcast version, again, thank you so much. Our next Geek Out episode is episode 43. It'll be airing tonight, so that's pretty exciting. And we'll be having a lot more upcoming details as far as where we're going to be going with that. So, again, thank you all so much. I really do appreciate it. You all enjoy the rest of your day. So, for those of you who got to stick around and don't really care too much on spoilers or would just want to hear me geek out over what I really enjoy and talking about my favorite scene, here we are. So, honestly, I have to say, it was... Overall, I really enjoyed the movie. Like I said before, there was some parts where I just felt, man, I wish they would have put just a bit more detail, just to make it a little, just not too long, but 20 minutes longer. I felt like would have really nailed it, like just over the top nailed it with some details, because it is a bit rushed in some parts, and some of those parts that were rushed, that should have been detailed, like they were in the book, really give you a bit more presence and that eeriness to what ends up happening later. So, my favorite part, honestly, was after the daughter dies, how's a present, because she actually isn't the original one who dies in the novel or the original movie. It was actually the son, Gage. So they definitely did a twist, and at first I was like, well, why would they do this? But it actually does correlate very well. So, and they do have kind of a mix-up. And she did such a phenomenal job of bringing still that aspect of this undead zombie child that tries to fit back into this world that she knows she does not belong to, and literally terrorizes her family for pretty much bringing her back. At that point, the entirety of that is where I loved it. Her acting just skyrocketed. The fear and the presence built. And also, I was very, very happy with John Lithgow playing Judd as the neighbor character, because it just fits so well. So overall, amazing. 3 out of 4 stars. Again, if you want to see something scary, go ahead and check out this film. If not, just wait for it on Redbox. If not, 110%. If you are a reader, if you're watching me now or listening, read this book. It is phenomenal. I swear by it. I swear by it. So again, thank you all so much. You all enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch you next week for Hellboy. Yes.